This morning, I am going to continue to give you guys some advice. I'm going to start off with a story, and then I'm going to kind of give you a wager. But let me read a story to you. Or a text that I got last year. So I'm not quite sure where I was when I got this text, but this lady sent a text out. She's actually a good friend of ours, and both my sons played football for Oxford and soccer for Oxford High School. And my middle son plays competitive soccer for North Tupelo. And we have 20 families that are on this group text messaging. And this lady sent a text she thought to one of her friends. I didn't know it at the time, but this is just, these types of men are a dime a dozen in this community. But a husband had just cheated on his wife for the second time, and wives talk. Remember the other day I told you that I could get you in the back of put you in the back of my truck, we could drive around my neighborhood, and I could show you homes and say, that family's on their second marriage, that family's on their third marriage. A Sigma Nu, one of my Sigma Nus was on the square, I think it was probably about 2 years ago, and a lady that I know was drunk, and she asked for a ride. He gave her a ride, and she said in the truck to him, "Hey, would you please have sex with me? I'd love to have sex with you." She said, "I haven't had sex with my husband in 3 years." So she just said that to that Sigma Nu who told me, so then I know there's another couple that I can tell you that hadn't had sex in 3 years. Families like that are a dime a dozen in this community, and my question to you is, how are you not going to be like that? The odds are stacked against you. Most of you, I could stand at the staircase right there. Well, I think you guys can't walk down that staircase, but I can stand over there at the door, and I can shake hands with you and bet you $1,000 that most of you guys are going to be divorced one day. Somebody's going to be sleeping with your wife and raising your kids, and I would make money. In other words, a majority of you, your marriages are going to fail. I don't know why frat guys have the worst chances of making it. I don't know. I don't know if it's this entitlement that we think we've got, or that we deserve to have a good marriage. I don't know why, but I'm here to help you. But listen to this text this wife sent out. Listen to this. It says this: "I would throw his shit into a bag, I'd kick it down the stairs, then I'd slit his tires and kick his ass." One of the dads texts back, because this went to 20 families. One of the dads, a good buddy of mine, texts back just one word: "Damn." Golly, we're not going to mess with this lady. And I know her husband really well. And I said, I know 19 other wives that aren't going to be hitting on you. But the fact is, guys, is if you can't learn to control yourselves now and be men of integrity, be men of character, remember I told you the other day, it's not a two lives mentality. It's not like you live one way now and you live another way later on. The type of woman you're dating now, the type of woman you're spending your time with, that's the type of woman you're going to marry. And if you can't control yourself now, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to control yourself later. I'm going to read some for you from a guy that's supposed to be known as the wisest man that ever lived. In 1 Kings, in the Old Testament of the Bible, King David, who was the king over Israel, passes away. He dies, and his son Solomon takes over. Well, one night in a dream, God comes to Solomon and says to Solomon, "Because your dad was so faithful to me, and because he served me, I want to give you a wish. Anything you want, I will give you, Solomon." Okay, I don't think any time in the Bible this has ever happened, but God literally became like a genie to Solomon and said, "I will give you whatever you want." Well, Solomon says, "Well, God, the nation of Israel is so big, I need wisdom. I need wisdom to rule these people." And then God says to him, "Because you didn't ask for wealth and money and fame, I'm going to give you those things too, but I'm going to make you the wisest man that ever lived." Okay? So if the Bible is true, which I'm a campus minister, I believe the Bible's true, then Solomon became the wisest man that ever lived. Well, when he wrote the book of Proverbs, it was actually advice to his sons. So this morning, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a section from Proverbs 7 and a section from Proverbs 31. In Proverbs 7, Solomon is giving his sons advice about the type of woman you don't want to be hanging out with, and then he's going to contrast it with the type of woman you do want to hang out with. All right, so let's go to Proverbs chapter 7. You can just listen, and I'm going to read this, and we'll talk about it. All right, listen to this. He starts off and he says, Follow my advice, son. Always treasure my commands. Obey my commands and live. Guard my instructions as you guard your eyes. Tie them on your fingers as a reminder. Write them down on your heart. Love wisdom like a sister. Make insight a beloved member of your family. Let them protect you from an affair with an immoral woman. from listening to the flattery of a promiscuous woman. Now, listen to this type of woman he's going to describe. He says, while I was at the window of my house looking through the curtain, I saw some naive young men, one in particular who lacked common sense. He was crossing the street near the house of an immoral woman, strolling down the path of her house. It was at twilight in the evening, as darkness fell over. The woman approached him. She was seductive, dressed in Slavehard. She was a brash, rebellious type, never content to stay home. She's often in the streets and the markets, soliciting at every corner. She threw her arms around him and she kissed him, and with a brazen look she said, "You're the one I've been looking for. I've come out to find you, and here you are. My bed is spread with beautiful blankets. I've perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloe, and cinnamon. Come, let us drink our love till morning. Let's enjoy each other's caresses. For my husband is not at home. He's away on a long trip. He's taken a wallet of money with him, and he won't return till later in the month." So she seduces him with her pretty speech, and she entices him with her flattery. He follows her at once like an ox going to the slaughter, awaiting an arrow that would pierce his liver. Now, my wife is pre-med, and one of the first times I ever read this, I was like, honey, what's so interesting? Why would he say that your liver, what's so important about your liver being pierced? Because these guys are soldiers, they know what happens in combat. And my wife said, if you pierce someone's liver, it poisons their whole body. So that's why he says, when this man follows this girl, she's literally going to poison or pierce his liver. It's like a bird flying into a snare, little knowing that it will cost him his life. So listen to me, my sons, and pay attention to my words. Don't let your heart stray away towards her. Don't wander down her wayward path, for she has been the ruin of many. Many men have been her victims. Her house is the road to the grave. Her bedroom is a den of death. Now let me ask you guys, these women are all over the place, but where do you find these women on the Ole Miss campus? Tell me, where do you find them? The bars. I mean, some of the parties, right? They're a dime a dozen. And guys, I've been on this campus. So I've been working with fraternity guys for 29 years. It's my 29th year since I was a pledge. And I've only met one couple that ever met in a bar and got married. Out of all the thousands of guys that have come and gone. Now, I'm not saying don't go to the bars. There's not a whole lot to do in Oxford. But I want to challenge you in your thinking of the type of girl you're hanging out with and spending your time with. If your chances of not meeting your wife is in a bar, then let me ask you, where are you going to meet your wife? I would encourage you to consider, I believe less than 3% of the Ole Miss campus goes to church at any given time. Less than 3% of you guys go to church. I would challenge you, what if you considered going to church more? What if you considered going to a campus ministry like Crew or RUF and trying to get involved? Because that's where I met my wife. Next week, we're going to celebrate 23 years of marriage. 23 years, guys. I was sitting around a table with a good buddy of mine who's the director of Crew at Auburn last summer. And he's been married 30 years. And we were eating lunch with the Alabama director who's been married 17 years. And I've been married 22 years. And you know what we said? We sat around, we were talking about it. We said, well, Bill, the guy that was the oldest, said, he goes, guys, we have the best life I think we could have. And we've all agreed we've got really good wives. We get really good sex on a regular basis. But we all agreed that we're not the guys that people try to be anymore. Most people don't try to be like us. Because the culture of everything I'm telling you today, and everything I'm going to challenge you, is just the opposite of what the culture tells you. The culture says, get it all now. Have fun now. Get as much sex as you can now. And yet, when it comes to, let's say, business and retirement, we don't say that. I'm on the road one day to having several $1 million worth of real estate. I would love to have more shotguns, more hunting land, more this and that, but I have abstained from immediate gratification. I've taken my money and I've invested it into rental property. And I've got several $1 million worth of rental property here in Oxford. One day I'm going to have a very potentially comfortable retirement. Of course, I'm never going to retire. I want to do ministry for the rest of my life. So what that money is going to do is help me travel around and do ministry all around overseas, but I'm not going to have to raise the money because I'm going to have it. So I am abstaining right now from immediate gratification so I can have a long-term benefit. What if in the same way in purity, guys, you decided to listen to what I had to say, and here's my wager. If you listen to what I had to say and you actually apply it to your life, I'm gambling that you could have a good marriage one day. I'm not saying for sure you're going to have one, because marriage is tough. It's not easy. The guys that are here, there's 3 of us, I think, that are married. We can tell you it's not easy. But you potentially could have a good marriage if you hold out and you try to fight off the women that are so desperate and so insecure and throw themselves at you, and you wait on the right woman. I know it's not easy for you guys today. I'll give you a couple examples of just me. 10 years ago, because right about 10 years ago, I was sitting over at an apartment complex with a Sigma Nu. We were just talking, and a college-age girl walked up to us, and she said, "Hey guys, would y'all like to have some free sex?" And I was like, "What?" I couldn't believe she said that. But she was like, "Yeah, you guys want to have sex? Free sex, whatever you want." And of course, I joked with the Sigma Nu that she obviously saw me first. But I mean, I was completely shocked. I couldn't believe this girl would say that. And just 3 or 4 weeks ago, we rented out our house for the Tennessee weekend, and I was staying with some upperclassmen. There were 3 seniors I was staying with, and it was Friday night before the Tennessee game. I was going to be staying in the back bedroom. My wife had gone to see her family, and I was sitting on a chair, and one of my senior guys was sitting on my bed that I was going to be sleeping on. We were just talking, and these girls had somehow ended up at our house. It's about midnight, walked to the back bedroom, and this one girl, she's a pretty college-age girl from Tennessee. She comes in almost blackout drunk, and she says, "Hey, do you guys mind if I sleep with y'all?" And I was like, "No, this is my room. I'm going to be sleeping in this bed." And she turns to me and she says, "No, really, do you mind if I sleep with you? I won't do anything. I'll just stay right beside you." And I was like, obviously we said no, and we helped walk her out of the room. But I know how easy it is for you guys to throw your lives away to women. But those types of women, as Solomon sits here and tells his son, they will poison you. They will kill you. They will. When you get to be my age, you won't forget what you did. And when you go to bed with your wife, if you really want to have a good marriage, you will remember everything you did with those women. Now, you may not remember their names, but you'll remember what you did. And I shared with you last week that I made a decision when I was 23 years old. Pornography had been ruining my life, ruining my mind, ruining the way I thought about women. I made a decision when I was 23 to never look at pornography again. All right, now I look back, that was about 24 years ago, and it took me years to get that crap out of my mind. So when I was intimate with my wife, I got married about a year later, it took months, if not a few years, for me to really enjoy sex, and intimacy the way I believe it was created to enjoy. So I'm telling this to you guys because I want you guys to have a good marriage. Remember I told you last week, and now I'm going to look at Proverbs 31. Who really cares about you outside these walls? And your mom and dad may care about you, but that's about it. I care about you. John cares about you. These pledge trainers, these officers, we care about you. That's why we talk to you about these things. You think about pornography. Did you know that the industry of porn makes more money than all professional sports combined? But do you think pornography cares anything about you? Do you think the music industry cares about you when over 90% of music talks about sex outside of marriage? What about the movies? You go to a movie, in 4 or 5 minutes, people are just having sex. So many movies are like that. Do you think they care about you guys? They could care less about you. But I care about you. Solomon cared about his sons. And listen to this, okay? So he describes the type of woman he wants his sons to marry. And then I want to get you guys, after I read this passage, I want you to share with me some of the adjectives that you hear him say as he describes this woman. Listen to this in Proverbs 31. He says this: "Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She is more precious than rubies. Her husband can trust her." You think I would trust that lady in Proverbs 7? She's not even faithful to her own husband. How do I know she's going to be faithful to me? Guys, I trust my wife. If I go on a long trip and I'm going to be gone for a month or a week or this, there's been times I've been gone for 2 weeks overseas. I've been away from my wife at least 10 different times on mission trips overseas. But you know what? I trust my wife. And I also trust my wife that she's not going to say bad things about me to other women. Most of the men in this community, their wives talk bad behind their backs, and that's why I hear the stories that I hear. But you know what? I trust my wife. So this guy, he trusts his wife. She greatly enriches his life. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She gets up before dawn and she prepares breakfast for her household. And she plans the day work for her several servant girls. She goes to inspect a field and she buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She is energetic and strong. She's a hard worker. She makes sure her dealings are profitable. Her lamp burns late into the night. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens an arm to the needy. She has no fear of winter for her household, for everyone has warm clothes. Her husband is well known at the city gates, where he sits with the other civic leaders. She laughs without fear of the future. When she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instructions with kindness. She carefully watches over everything in her household, and she suffers nothing from laziness. Her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. He says, there are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord shall be praised. Now, guys, what are some of the qualities that I just read about this woman? What?
Virtuous.
Yeah, she's virtuous.
Strong.
Yeah, she's strong.
Hardworking.
Hardworking. Capable.
Wise.
Yep, she's wise.
Precious.
What's that?
Precious.
Yeah, she's precious. She makes money. She's profitable. And what does it say once again about her husband? Her husband can trust her. Now, let me hone in on verse 23. It says, her husband is well known at the city gates, where he sits with the other civic leaders. What does that mean about her husband? That means her husband is a leader in the community. Guys, who do you think the most respected people are in this community? Let me tell you, it's the same most respected people that were in Auburn when I was there, at Fayetteville when I was in college, in Little Rock where I grew up. It's the men who are the mayor, the aldermen, the deacons, the elders of the churches. Those are men who are elected into those positions. I want to challenge you guys to live your lives in such a way that you could be a deacon of your church one day. You could be an elder. You could be an alderman, which means you would be a respected representative of your community. But guys, if you're not being that type of guy right now, what makes you think you're going to be that guy later? You cannot become what you are not becoming. I said that last week. You cannot become what you're not becoming. Think about the type of man you want to be. Think about the type of woman you want to marry. And right now, I want to challenge you guys as freshmen to say, okay, I'm going to live like that type of guy. Help me be accountable. Get a friend to keep you accountable and say, I want to live like that type of guy. Within Sigma Nu, and I tell the pledges over there, within Sigma Chi, we want you to be men of integrity now. Men of character now. That's what the Greek system was founded on. Now, why do we say those things? Because I want to bump into you guys 20 years from now or 30 years from now, and you guys say, hey, you know what, Isaac? Remember when I heard you 20 years ago? Man, that was really a good kick in the butt for me. Because I made a decision that day that I was going to try to be a man of character, a man of integrity, and I stopped dating some of the types of girls I was dating, and I started focusing in and dating the right type of girl. And you know what? I've been married for 20 years now. I've got 3 kids. Man, I love my life. But let me go ahead and let you know, guys, if you live that type of life that I'm talking about, nobody's going to make a movie about you. You're not going to be talked about much, but you will be one of the most respected guys in your community. Proverbs 11:32 says, a beautiful woman who lacks discretion is like a gold ring in a pig's snout. In other words, yeah, she may be beautiful, but the question is, what about her integrity? In Proverbs 6, Solomon talks about the same type of immoral woman. And listen to what he says to his sons about when you hang out with these type of immoral women. It says, can a man take fire into his chest or bosom and his clothes not be burned? Or can a man walk on hot coals and his feet not get scorched? See, Solomon's whole point is the decisions you make really affect your future. And my desire for you guys is that you'll have a good marriage one day. But it starts with the decisions you make right now. Let me pray for you guys, okay? Father, I just right now just want to thank you for this chapter. And Lord, over the 21 years that I've been here, Lord, you have had your hand on this chapter. And it has been the most consistent chapter of quality guys out of this entire Greek system. Lord, you have protected so many guys in this house. And Lord, it'd be my prayer that you would continue to have your hand on this chapter. And Lord, I would pray that these men here in this class would remember the things we're talking about. Father, they would apply them to their lives. And Lord, that you would bless them. Lord, it would be my desire that they would have very few regrets when they're my age. They would not look back at their past in college and regret college like so many of my friends, but that they would say those were some of the best years of my life. Father, I pray for wisdom for these men. I pray for wisdom for their pledge trainers, for the officers in this fraternity, for their chapter advisors. Lord, I pray that you protect this chapter like you have over the past. We thank you and praise you in your name.